the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, 64-year-old Member of Parliament for Swami, is facing the committee. We'll take you live now to the main chamber of Parliament.
Please, can you resume your seat? We were wondering why you are affirming without showing your hands. That's how you affirm.
Solemnly
affirm. Is that not right?
Mr. Chairman, affirmed by my whole physical constitution.
Are you not regular worshipper at the Assemblies of God Church?
I am.
But you chose to solemnly affirm.
Because we don't swear.
It lies within your choice to do so. Chairman may ask you to assume your seat.
Your name is Osei kyei-Mensah-Bonsu. Is that right?
That is so, Mr. Chairman.
You're MP for Swami.
That is so, Mr. Chairman.
You've been MP 7th time in this Parliament. Is that right?
I've been MP for 6 terms. I'm in my 7th term now. I'm beginning my 7th term.
And you're the leader of the majority and leader of the House.
You're right, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. The President has nominated you as a Minister-Designate for Parliamentary Affairs. Is there anything you wish to add to what we have already confirmed?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. The President has nominated me, if I may say, as Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. Mr. Chairman, with respect, I heard you say that the President has nominated me as Minister-Designate for Parliamentary Affairs. I thought the President has nominated me as Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, not as Parliamentary Affairs Designate.
You are Minister-Designate for Parliamentary Affairs before this committee?
For now, yes.
That's right. Yes. Do you wish to add any?
Chairman, let the nominee know that you are in charge.
Chairman, with respect, if you can quieten the flanks a bit for me, I'm not hearing you well.
And do you wish to add anything to what you have already admitted?
Mr. Chairman, I guess everybody here knows me very well, so I wouldn't have much to add to what is already being stated by you.
Very well, honored members. That is our leader. Yes, honorable member for Boko Central.
Thank you very much, Honorable Osei kyei-Mensah-Bonsu, Member of Parliament for Swami, and leader of the majority group in Parliament. You've been nominated to the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs to be the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. You prefer it that way. Can you explain to me and to Ghanaians why we should have a Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs when we have a Parliamentary Service Board headed by the clerk to oversee
The Parliamentary Service is the clerk. The Parliamentary Service Board is the speaker. And the Parliamentary Service is the clerk.
Yes, leader, you may answer.
Yes, sorry. So I'm looking at the Constitution, Article 124, 3. which says that the clerk to Parliament shall be the head of the parliamentary service. Yeah, so it's the parliamentary service I meant, not the board. The parliamentary service, headed by the clerk. Then you have the parliamentary service board, okay? Now, you have the speaker also, who presides over parliamentary sittings and etc. Do you think that outside the remit of the speaker, outside the remit of the clerk, and outside your own remit as leader of the majority group, there are matters that are so
disagreement? I recognize that ours is a hybrid. That is the reason why we have imported this into our system. You had this in the first and second parliaments of the Fourth Republic, and continued by President Kufuor. President Rawlings had it, and the Honorable J.H. Osei was the first minister, succeeded by Dr. Kwabeneji. President Kufuor continued it, but it was prescribed under President Mills and President Mahama, has been resurrected by President Akufo-Addo. So that is the trajectory of the ministry in the Fourth Republic.
You don't think that even though the Constitution prescribes a hybrid system that makes ministers, at least 50% of ministers to come from Parliament, that to push the boundaries and promote some level of the independence of Parliament, that we then encourage the leader of the Parliament to be an appointee of the President? If we can push a little to ensure some independence of Parliament, that the leader, you can have your ministers come and be part of the House, but that the leader of Parliament shouldn't be the appointee of the President.
First of all, it's not entirely true the position that you state, that the leader of Parliament or the leader of the House would be the minister. If you have a position, a situation where, like 2013, when the MPP took the matter of the elections to court, right? If the MPP had won the case, President Akufo-Addo was going to be the president. At the time, the MPP had just 122 members in Parliament. The leader of government business was going to be the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. So it is not always the case that the majority leader will be the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. It was always the case. You get it wrong because of the importation of, that is, lock, stock and barrel of the Westminster system into our standing orders. So you see that discrepancy in the definition of majority leader and minority leader. That's where the conflict is, because it's an importation of the Westminster system into the definition, which is wrong. So you must have that clarity before you proceed further. So I know where you're going, and it's very slippery for you yourself. So let me offer that clarity. And second, the issue also is the ministry is supposed to provide an interface between Parliament and the executive, and also the other constitutional creatures, right? So that if any policy program is coming on board, it's supposed to be the funnel to sieve whatever is coming from these constitutional bodies, what the impact on them would be. You want to listen to NGOs, to civil society organizations as well, right? And then you fit it into that loop and bounce it off to government again. And then it also provides platform to sensitize the general public about government programs and policies. Because often when matters come to Parliament, they are seen to be being rushed through Parliament. If these are known, the agenda of government is known to the ministry, to the leader of government business, these things could be in the public domain long before they are even introduced in Parliament, so that public sensitivities and public opinion would feed into government programs and policies even before they are introduced in Parliament. That makes it richer. So, again, it's a justification for the creation and indeed existence of the ministry. It's no duplication and there's no conflict at all. That is if we have clarity of role definition. I do remember that when we had this peer review, when they came to Ghana, they thought that the ministry existed just to emasculate parliaments. Because in those jurisdictions, there are presidential systems, strict compartmentalization, and ministers are not chosen from parliament, so they didn't understand. That's the reason why it fed into that report. But it was wrong perception.
You are proposing standing orders, new standing orders. New standing orders are being proposed. And in those new standing orders, we as the House are considering allowing heads of constitutional bodies to appear before Parliament to answer parliamentary questions. It's in our proposal for new parliamentary orders, constitutional bodies, heads of constitutional bodies. In the Constitution, those who can appear or attend Parliament are clearly spelled out. The President to deliver special messages, the Vice President to attend but without voting rights. Ministers who are not members of Parliament are clearly spelled out as capable of attending without voting rights, and deputy ministers, and then elected members of Parliament. These are the constitutionally allowed persons to attend Parliament. The new proposals that you are making is seeking to directly hold heads of constitutional bodies accountable to Parliament by saying they can be summoned to come and answer questions like any other minister. Do you think that is consistent with the spirit and letter of the Constitution?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm here as Minister-Designate for Parliamentary Affairs, Ministry. The question that you're asking me relates to my capacity as Majority Leader. But to answer directly, I don't see any constitutional prohibitions as far as those bodies are concerned. We must recognize that the Constitution empowers us with the authority of oversight of all these creatures. How are they to come before us? Are we going to limit them to just appearance at committees, which would include committee of the whole, or that we should allow them, we should create space for them to be able to respond directly to us? I do know that the case that is before the courts now, the election petition, an aspect has been raised about the constitutional responsibility of the Electoral Commission in respect of transparency and accountability. How are they to account to the nation? Through Parliament. And that is why it's not Osei kyei-Mensah-Bonsu, but the leadership of the House considers it worthy to create space for the constitutional creatures to live up to their responsibility and also to empower us to seriously interrogate into their administration and activities. A thought that will really reposition Parliament and strengthen Parliament in the performance of our oversight responsibilities.
You want to ask your leader a question? Okay. Okay.
I'll stop permission. Respectfully, Leader, the current construct of our laws shows the primary duty of MPs as members of parliament to make laws. How do we reconcile this with the overwhelming public opinion that MPs must also become development agents in their constituencies? And we know that the MP is elected, the assemblyman is elected, but these people don't have access to development funds. Please, with emphasis on the MPs, do you agree? And will you take steps to ensure that our laws are amended to give MPs some funds to serve as development agents in our constituencies?
Mr. Chairman, when I was listening to my colleague, I thought it was a Sam George voice. Because I was looking for Sam George, and the voice is Mr. Chairman, I think it's a very important issue that my colleague raises about the perception outside in the public domain that members of parliament are development agents. Let me say that it's not only the members of the general public who so think, but our own conduct. We also feed into that. Mr. Chairman, I was telling colleagues over the previous weekend that if anybody should move, flying the road from Kumasi to Tamale, the billboards that heralded the conduct of parliamentary elections, many of them are still in place. Look at what we have written on them. You said for Umpuntu, vote for John Kuma. So is the general public wrong to believe in the fact that you are saying that you are responsible for development? Right? We feed into that, wrongly or rightly. But you see, again, in the elections, high-profile elections, it is the face of the member of parliament which is out there in the constituency, his or hers and that of the president. So the MMDCs who are responsible for development at the local level, they are not voted for by universal adult suffrage, right? And that being the case, people come to see you as the face of the constituency. Then when you went there and to solicit for their votes, the community asked you, have you seen the road that you traversed to get here? Especially when there was an incumbent MP that you thought was not doing very well. You would happily, I have not used the word undermine, you are saying undermine. You will happily respond that, oh, the member of parliament has been there, he's not been helping you, vote for me, I'll help you. Because you also want to get to parliament. Sometimes that's why I'm saying that by our own conduct, we also feed into it. Before we first came to parliament, we didn't have this MP's share of the common funds being given to us. But how much is that? That is supposed to serve you to do some patch work. Really is money that is given to you. There's a rainstorm in your constituency, the roof of maybe a classroom is ripped off, and you go visiting, and you realize that if you have to apply through the Ministry of Education, it's going to take a while. So you have that amount in your coffers. So you link up with the DCE and whoever, and then you apply to go and have the classroom re-roofed. That amount serves you for that purpose. There's not much. I appreciate the fact that it's increasing a bit. There are cracks in a hair facility. You use it to patch it so that it doesn't collapse on the patients who go there. So that is the extent of the assistance that fund offers you. In terms of major development activities, it cannot help you in any way. It cannot. There's been this debate over a period that because of the misconception, perhaps that amount should revert back to the assembly so that, like Pontius Pilate, we wash our hands off the issue of monies being given to us for development. I have not made that determination yet. The other side is that, because the amount is so small, can we have a meeting with the administrator of the Common Fund and indeed the minister responsible for local government and have it apt so that it's able to assist us in a bigger way to impact the development activities in the constituency. It's a decision that the House should come to. For now, I'm not in a position to say that it should be scrapped or that it should be upscaled to some level. It's our own decision. But let me say that we should learn useful lessons from our own conduct. I believe that if you stay in this house for 1 term, 2 terms, you have insurgents, in quotes, invading your constituency, telling them that, John came promising that you do this. He's not been able to do it. Give me the opportunity. I will do far better than he is doing, right? So maybe in the flanks you can also constitute your own national resistance army, so to speak, to counter them. But it's something that we have to contend with. I will need the NCCE to help us as a house to educate the populace out there that the member of parliament is not really a development agent. But of course, as I've said, it also depends to a large extent on how we ourselves conduct ourselves in activities.
Yes. Deputy, Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The Chairman, in line with the practice of this House, I think we need to let people know our leaders are usually not really taken through vigorous vetting, regardless of which ministry they are going to. And as a House, I think it's a very useful practice and we must keep it. So my intention is not to ask questions, but just to make some few comments. One of them is to say, I have worked very closely with the majority leader, and one of the main problems that we've not been able to overcome in this House is MPs being given loan to buy their car. They maintain it, they insured it at the expense of part of their salary, and how it affects the welfare of the MPs. We have, over the years, worked so hard to get the executives to understand that the arm of government, legislature, is disadvantaged. Because if you look at even DCs, their number used to be 90, 110. Now they are 266. Only about 9 short of MPs. But they don't have to buy cars to work in their offices. The state is able to provide, maintain, fuel, chauffeur-driven. Yet in the case of the Member of Parliament, he has to go through all these difficulties. And I know how you and I and many others have worked through the committees that normally are set to Article 71, and unfortunately, we've still not been able to overcome that challenge. Even though I know these responsibilities for the leaders of both sides, but it lies more on those of majority who are with government. I hope that as you get the opportunity for the second time to be the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, this will continue to press home to be able to overcome it. And secondly, the President of Parliament, as you know, we've never had the opportunity to have President and Speakers that are from this House until the recent past, when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama became President and Right Honorable Duajao became Speaker. We thought we'd be able to overcome this. Unfortunately, we couldn't. Then came His Excellency President Nanado and then Professor Michael Kyei, and we thought that, oh, this is another opportunity. 4 years elapsed, we couldn't. The President of Parliament will be here and people will come in to do funerals. People will be using the banquet hall for activities, and sometimes it disrupts our own activity here. Now that you are getting this second opportunity, it is my hope that you work very hard so that we'll be able to secure our president, not only by word of mouth, but with all its documentation, so that we are sure that our president is the President of Parliament. And Mr. Chairman, because of the practice, and I said we don't have to keep him long, my last comment is to say that when it comes to hard work in this House, I believe even his arch enemy will stand out for him, very hardworking. When it comes to knowledge of what we want to do, equally, many will agree with him and understand that he's very knowledgeable. But when it comes to carrying all of us along, that is where he has a lot of difficulty. I've heard him say, I've been more consultative than any other leader in this House. Unfortunately, I disagree with him. But when you come and you tell me, oh, we want to do this and do this, so I'm showing it to you, and I give my view, you say, no, this is what we'll still do. I don't think that is consulting. That is informing. Because you've made your mind and you won't change it. And I think this is one of the biggest difficulties that he has, the kind of parliament that we now have. It is my hope that he will find a way to reflect and be able to manage this other part. Even I don't expect him to be an angel, but if he's able to manage that and carry all of us along, I think even though we are at neck to neck, I'm sure we'll be able to do a lot of work to make this parliament unique and make this parliament great and be able to deliver our mandate to the admiration of all Ghanaians. Mr. Chairman, this is just a comment that I want to say. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Honorable, do you want to say anything to the comment?
Mr. Chairman, I've heard you. The first one to do with MPs' loans to buy cars for official duty. And then, indeed, even with what we need to do to enhance the performance of members of parliament, in respect of not only the vehicles, but the procurement of official residences. Are we there yet? Even though we've improved our lot a bit, are we there yet? The provision of security for members of parliament in the face of what happened the previous administration, just before we conducted elections, there was this, so to speak, more or less knee-jerk decision to provide us with security. That's something that we have been discussing for a very long time. We need to pursue it once we have the Minister of Interior in place to secure for ourselves personal security. And then, of course, again, the fourth issue will relate to evolving a pension scheme for members. So at least your mind is liberated to concentrate on your functions as a member of parliament. There are matters that are still on the burner that we must come to some determination on. The presence of parliament definition, I guess the minority leader would agree with me that we've traveled indeed far on this. Just about concluding, I'm hopeful that within the next, I wouldn't say the next year, let me just give ourselves some space. Whatever it is, within the next 2 years, we should be able to come to a final determination on this, that is the presence of parliament. I agree that especially on Fridays when parliament is doing serious business and we have people dancing, the presence of parliament, sometimes mourning and drumming. And when the banquet hall was in service, there are people renting them out and really disturbing parliament. Parliament activities going on, all manner of people flocking into the banquet hall to do whatever they deem fit and appropriate. I think if we have ownership of the presence of parliament, these things will be things of the past. As I said, I am very hopeful that the next 2 years will bring this matter to a conclusion. Thank you for the compliment on hard work, knowledge, and so on. And you want me to carry everybody along. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I'm not too sure that given my own weight, I'm able to carry the chief whip of the minority at my back. I'm not too sure that I'm able to do that, given my own weight. But, Mr. Chairman, I think that on a much more serious note, he wants a situation where everybody will have a buy-in into government policy and program. Let's face it, that is often, especially when matters relate to policy, it will be difficult to carry everybody along because the political parties differ in their philosophy. Even though in Ghana we are fortunate to have all parties being centrist parties, the NDC just being a little bit to the left of the center, MPP being a little bit to the right of the center, because the directive principles of state policy imposes on us an obligation on the architecture of national development, which all of us have to buy into. So we all belong to the center. So really when it comes to details, we may differ a bit in detail, which is why I endeavor to, as much as possible, reach out to colleagues. I think the minority chief whip has been very particular about this, and I have always insisted. I've been a minority leader for 8 years, and God is my witness. The majority leaders never consulted me on many of the programs and activities. I have my colleague here, the minority leader. You ask him whether we are not in consultation on almost daily basis. And on matters of serious national importance, I invite him to my office. We talk about these matters. Rarely do I go to his office, I must admit. But I would often invite him to my office, and then we talk about these things. But that is the level of cooperation. If I have to consult the minority chief whip, usually I route it through the chief whip of the majority. Because otherwise, if I consult you behind the minority leader, I will be undermining the authority of the minority leader. Sometimes when I talk to him, this one, talk to the leader, to the chief whip. On those occasions, I will talk to you. Otherwise, it will undermine the authority of leadership. The minority leader. Did I say majority leader? Perish that thought. You are not the majority leader. Anyway, so I mean, that's how, to what extent that we cooperate. To the extent that sometimes people think that, as he keeps telling me, that he sold out the majority. And he asked me whether he's Kobe to be sold. I think we cooperate a lot. But the fact that you complain means that there's still room for improvement. And I will take that on board.
Well, I'm surprised that HFP wanting to ask his leader a question. I will save you the trouble. Honorable Minority Leader.
Chairman Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity and also to congratulate our leader and leader of the House. Sometimes he still lives in the world of the past of not wanting to carry Parliament along as its leader in the various respected roles he's played as minority, majority. But as observed by the Chief Whip, the Honorable Muntaka, and I share and associate myself absolute with his comments that in terms of purpose, the Honorable kyei-Mensah demonstrates it. Love for his work and parliamentary work and parliamentary business, he romanticizes that. So in the same enterprise, I do not intend to ask him any question on matters relating to character and conduct, but I envelope some issues that in the public interest, I would want him to, at his own pleasure, make some commentary for the benefit of the Ghanaian people and for stronger and accountable parliament and for a better democracy of our country. Therefore, not direct question, as would have been my attitude with any ministerial nominee. One, what is your mind? You've been concerned about attrition rate of parliament and us losing very quality materials. I mean, the last parliament, you've seen the like of the Honorable Banda, Honorable Nusa, Fuseni, Honorable Lecturer, Dr. Asibe, and Ben Abdallah and Co. If you want to share some opinion on that, that would be helpful. Then two, constitutional review. Where do you stand? The 1992 Constitution. Are you for a comprehensive review of the Constitution or just pick and choose aspects of it for our purposes? Then my third, you are concerned as I'm concerned. And Mr. Speaker, that will be my only question for him. The rest are commentary. This one will be my question. How do we end and manage or deal together with civil society and the Ghanaian public and political parties the monetization of our election processes and the threat it poses to the sustenance of multi-party constitutional democracy? Yes, I know all the political parties, NDC and MPP, are guilty of it, but I'm using the yardstick of the last MPP primaries and the heavy doses of money we saw many of our friends collapsing to that hemorrhaging cause of money. So that would be my only question for you to do. The other one would be a comment, how do we work together to strengthen Parliament? And then also to tease your mind, as I have said, I have no direct question for you. One of the weaknesses of our Parliament in the exercise of oversight is the rush with which successive governments, NDC and MPP, have subjected Parliament to. You bring in a bill, you are suspending the standing orders, stakeholders are not being consulted, persons affected by the legislation or likely to be affected are not involved in the process. And you come in with a loan facility of 1 billion, thanks to a public financial management system, you expect it to pass within 24 hours without scrutiny. You are free to comment on any of this. I have no doubt that you are capable and capable of playing any role. I look forward to a better and a strengthened relationship between the executive and parliament, but as co-equals arms of government. That is what you should lead, co-equal arms of government, not one subservient to the other or subservient to the executive. So, Chairman, I would not have, except the monetization issue, the rest, maybe he wants to communicate with the rest of the world and the Ghanaian public what his enormous experience can benefit the people of Ghana and our democracy. I thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chairman, let me also thank the minority leader, the ranking member of the committee, for the kind words. The one issue about constitutional review, he knows my opinion, and I don't believe in, just tinkering with the Constitution. I believe that there should be a holistic review of the Constitution. We are in Parliament, we have applied the Constitution. Indeed, we apply it on a daily basis. We know the weaknesses that confront us in many areas, including even what he himself is alluding to, the process of amending the Constitution, especially the entrenched ones, which seem to relegate the Parliament to the backyard. Even with the non-entrenched, what's our properly defined role? So, Parliament as an arm of government will have many issues. You even speak about the bringing agreements and bills to Parliament, and sometimes when we have to set aside some of the orders, the Constitution itself is a bit confused about what to do when we have to abridge the process. You would realize, my colleague, that when you refer to Article 106, I think, Article 106, which deals with the mode of exercising legislative power. Let's look at it. When we come to Clause 13, which provides where it is determined by a committee of Parliament appointed for the purpose that a particular bill is of urgent nature, the provisions of the preceding clauses of this article, other than Clause 1 and Paragraph A of Clause 2, shall not apply, and accordingly, the President shall give his assent to the bill on its presentation for assent. What does it mean? What it means is that the Article 106.1 would apply, 106.2 would apply, 2A would apply. It says the preceding clauses except 1 and 2A. So the publication in the Gazette would not apply. And when you thought that that is the main issue, if you come to 3, it talks about a bill affecting the institution of chieftaincy shall not be introduced in Parliament without prior reference to the National House of Chiefs. Does it mean that in an urgent situation, one can waive that? 106.3, there's that unclarity. 106.4 then relates to the processes. That is first reading, second reading, the constitution stage, third reading, and so on. It says that all these should be suspended. What does it mean? How does the bill enter Parliament in the first place if it is not read for the first time? So there's that unclarity and confusion. And I think that we should have a holistic view of this, of the Constitution. In much the same way, if we relate it to the judiciary, they'll have their own issues. The constitutional creatures. You remember my distinguished colleague, when at a point in time we had to the president had to bring in Charlotte Osei in place of Afarijan, who had retired. My position at the time was that we should have the president submit the names to us for Parliament to subject it to prior approval using 2/3. If you come to Parliament approving by 2/3, the president will be forced to be very much more consultative in the appointment than is usually the case. That was just a suggestion. Today, commissions and commissioners who are appointed by the president are undermined because of maybe lack of trust. And the NDC thinks that because the current commissioners were introduced by President Akufo-Addo's regime, they cannot trust them. Just as we thought Charlotte Osei's commission could not be trusted. What should be the way forward for us as a country? Or should we go on in this haranguing all the time when there's a new set of commissioners? I think there should be a better way for us as a country. And as I'm saying, if we left it to all of us, strand out the critical issues contained in the Constitution and elevate them to a national debate from which perhaps will be born a consultative assembly or a constituent assembly, then something could come out which we shall subject to referendum. And then whatever the agreement is, that will be the new Constitution for us. So I think that it should not just be a tinkering with the Constitution. There should be a holistic and indeed wholesale review. The issue about high attrition rate and monetization of the election process, you've heard me, the Honorable Ranking Member and Minority Leader, on many, many occasions. I think that there's no person in politics who is a Father Christmas. And I keep insisting on this, that in politics, when people sow today, they will not have the patience to wait until 1 year or 2 years before they want to harvest. They sow today, they want to harvest the day after today. The process, we should all admit, is from the very beginnings, where we engage in, my party engages in the election of polling station executives. That's where it starts from. Then we come to electoral area. Then we come to constituency. Then we come to regional. Then we go to national. I refer us to Article 55(5) of the Constitution, which provides that the chairman, if you permit me, 55(5), which provides that the internal organization of a political party shall conform to democratic principles and its actions and purposes shall not contravene or be inconsistent with this Constitution or any other law. On account of this, some people think that at every level of the structures of the party, there should be elections. I disagree. Because the same article in clause 9 says that the members of the National Executive Committee of a political party shall be chosen from all the regions of Ghana. Now, by these elections that we conduct, how are we able to constitute the National Executive of a political party to reflect membership from all the regions in this country? We're not able to do that. Yeah, good. The language in the Constitution is they shall be chosen. Of course, election is one means of choosing people. But election is not the only means. Popular acclamation is a means of choosing. Appointment is a means of choosing. So until we come to some understanding on this, we shall have problems. And it reflects in choosing parliamentary candidates as well. In the established democracies, at the end of the term of a parliament, nowhere in the established democracies do you have what is happening in Ghana, that the sluice gates are opened and anybody can enter. Democracy everywhere is guided and guarded. And until we come to that understanding and open the sluice gates every 4 years, this monetization would become difficult for us to banish it. Because elsewhere, the parliamentary parties assess the performance of the MPs and pass on the recommendations to the party. This person is doing so well. And Minority Leader, you mentioned a certain person called Ben Abdallah. You know what he was doing for this house and for country. You spoke about Dr. Sibeyeboa. And we all know the contributions of a certain Fuseni Inusa, of Yilechere. Today, they are not all part of us. They are not part of us because of certain frustrations. Some of them went into primaries and lost. So, for how long are we going to continue in this process? And we all know that a lot of the considerations is not really what a person does in Parliament, but some other considerations that have nothing to do with the performance of business in this house. So that's where it starts from. And I think that not until the parties confront this reality, it will be difficult to stop the tide of the high attrition rate. I think I've attempted to answer the question on the rushing of bills through Parliament, and the other one is how to work together to strengthen Parliament. I think we are in that enterprise together. We're not either.
Okay, we've kept you
we continue to
enough.
be in that enterprise together.
We've kept you here long enough. They said we have kept you here long enough
As our leader.
for our leader. We thank you for attending upon the House. We are always in touch with you. We harass you from morning till evening till we get what we want. So be assured that we'll continue to be with you and after you for the things that the Parliament needs.
Chairman, but what's the meaning of Sumpahine and Sumpahima? And is it spelled with U or O? As what? If I'm home, Chairman.
Some S-O-M is to serve. So Sumpa Hene is the chief of good, the person who renders good service to the community. Right. Just so as my wife.
Chief of servants.
Just so as my wife has also been installed as Sumpa Hema. I'm not feeling the good service. In what respect? So, Mr. Speaker, Suhini has his view on other considerations that I don't want to involve myself in. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman.
You're discharged, Honorable Leader. You hear from us.
The vetting committee of Parliament has just finished vetting the first nominee for today, Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Osei kyei-Mensah-Bonsu, also leader of the majority group in Parliament. This is a bit unusual in terms of the time that they've spent asking questions from this minister nominee, of course, because they say he's their leader, and they don't usually question their leaders in this sense. And so they've spent not a lot of time, in less than 2 hours, vetting the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. This is his second nomination to this position. He's Member of Parliament for Swame, and he's been the Member of Parliament since 1997, really. This is his 8th term with this Parliament. Now they're waiting for the second nominee to enter into the chamber and go through the vetting process of asking and answering of questions. But Osei kyei-Mensah-Bonsu, answered questions related to the role, the importance of the Parliamentary Affairs Minister and the Ministry in the first place. Also touched on the role of the parliamentarian. People see them as development agents, but he also talked about how sometimes they give the people the impression that they are development agents. Many other areas that he touched on, but we'll take you back to Parliament now as they get ready to vote the second ministerial nominee for today. 3 tabled for today. We've seen the Parliamentary Affairs Minister-Designate. Still to come, we'll have the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Minister for Justice, the nominee, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, and then the Minister-Designate for Energy, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, who had moved from the Education Ministry to this new ministry. So we'll take you back to Parliament Live now for that.